We are glad to introduce our webinar number 4, which is the third step from the 5-step process that we looked at till now in our previous webinars. I am Nitin Bause, founder at Rieki-ng from Japan, and I have with me Hirotaka Mizutani, another co-founder and my partner, who will explain you all the details related to the regulatory and legal aspects of forming or starting a business in Japan. So without wasting much time, I would ask Hiro-san to take over and start our webinar today.
Thank you, Nitin-san. Okay, let me start the webinar. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Rieki-ng from Japan webinar number 4. We are delighted to have you join us today for what we consider one of the most crucial topics in our series, legal and regulatory essentials. Today, we are focusing on step 3 of our 5-step market entry process, regulatory compliance. And let me tell you right up front, this isn't just about checking boxes. In Japan, compliance isn't merely a legal obligation. It's a foundation of trust and credibility that will make or break your business success in Japan. Okay, let me quickly introduce Nitin-san again. He is my business partner, CEO and founder of Strand the Consultant, co-founder of Rieki-ng from Japan, together with me. He has spent years helping companies navigate the complex world of business, and I can tell you the collaboration between Nitin and me will bring the companies right way from India to Japan. And I am Hirotaka Mizutani, a management consultant in Japan, supporting foreign companies who want to enter Japanese market for years. Now, let's talk about what we covered today. We have 3 main areas to explore: Japan's legal framework, licenses and permits, and compliance pitfalls. But before we dive in, we want to remember this principle. Compliance first equals credibility in Japanese market. This isn't just a catchphrase. It's a business reality that will determine your success or failure in Japan. Please feel free to ask questions throughout using the chat function. We want this to be interactive and helpful for your specific situations. Let me start with the sovereign reality check. In Japan, business reputation is absolutely paramount. When I say compliance isn't just a legal obligation, but the foundation of trust, I mean it literally. Look at these numbers on the slide. 87% of Japanese consumers say a company's compliance history influences their purchasing decisions. That's not just impressive. That's business crucial, very critical. And here's the kicker. Companies that take a reactive approach to compliance see their market entry costs increase by an average of 62%. Think about that for a moment. Poor compliance planning doesn't just create legal risks. it literally makes your business more expensive to operate. But it gets worse. In Japan, compliance violations often result in public announcements. And trust me, that's brand damage you may never recover from. Now, let's understand how Japanese law actually works. Japan operates with a hierarchical legal system. Think of it like a pyramid with 5 distinct layers. At the top, you have the constitution, followed by national laws like the Companies Act and the Foreign Exchange and Foreign Trade Law. Then come cabinet orders, ministerial ordinances, and finally, and this is where many foreign companies get caught off guard, local ordinances. Here is what's crucial. Many foreign companies focus only on national requirements and completely overlook local regulations at the prefectural and municipal levels. This creates massive compliance gaps. I have seen companies spend months getting national approvals only to discover they need additional permits from the local government where they are setting up operations. Let me introduce you to the key players you will be dealing with in Japan. First, that's METI, the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. This should be your first stop for most business activities. They oversee general business regulation, import, export, and industrial standards. Then you have MHLW, the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. If you are dealing with pharmaceuticals, medical devices, food products, cosmetics, or labor standards, you will be working closely with them. For financial services, it's the FSA, the Financial Services Agency, and anything related to telecommunications or IT services, you need to know MIC, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. Each of these bodies maintains English language portals, though with varying degrees of comprehensiveness. My strong recommendation is that to bookmark these resources and establish direct contact channels early in your planning process. We of course support you. Now, let's talk about something that has become increasingly important since 2020, foreign direct investment screening. Japan significantly tightened these rules, lowering the threshold for mandatory review from 10% to just 1% ownership in companies operating in designated sensitive sectors. The process involves 4 stages: pre-filing consultation, notification filing, a 30-day review period that can be extended, and finally the decision. This isn't just bureaucracy, it's a security screening that can result in approval, modification, requirements, and outright rejection. Let's address the common myth right away. You do not need massive capital to establish your company in Japan. since 2006, legal reforms, you can technically establish a KK or GK with just 1 yen in capital, almost nothing. However, and this is important, practically speaking, you should capitalize with at least 5 to 10 million yen to demonstrate commitment and financial stability to Japanese partners and regulators. Looking at your options, KK, this is the most popular form, 株式会社, is similar to a corporation. ZK, a more simple form, 合同会社, is like an LLC, and you can also establish branch or representative offices. Each has different setup timelines from 1 to 2 weeks for representative office to 4 to 6 weeks for a KK. Now, here is where it gets industry specific. Each sector in Japan has its own regulatory framework and license requirements vary dramatically. For pharmaceuticals and medical devices, you are looking at PMDA regulation under MHLW. You will need marketing authorization holder licenses, good manufacturing practice certification, and clinical trial approvals. Processing times can be 1 to 2 years for complex sectors. Food and beverages require food sanitation business licenses, HACCP-based hygiene management, and food additive approvals from MHLW and local health department. Financial services need licenses from the FSA, whether it's banking, securities, and insurance licenses. What is the key takeaway? Start your license process early, very early, as soon as possible. Let's talk about product certifications, because this is where many companies get stuck. You have several key standards to consider. This JIS, Japanese Industrial Standards, technically voluntary, but practically essential for industrial products. PSE marks, mandatory for electrical products. Diamond PSE for higher risk items. Circle PSE for lower risk items. PSC marks required for consumer safety products like baby items and helmets. And just Japan agriculture standards cover food quality and organic certification. Here is what the certification process typically requires. Technical documentation translated into Japanese. Product samples for laboratory testing. Factory audits for certain categories. Japanese language user manuals and warning labels, and ongoing compliance monitoring. Now, let's address something that's become increasingly important, environmental and ESG obligations. Japan has significantly strengthened its requirements, especially after the Tokyo Stock Exchange introduced mandatory climate-related reporting for prime market-listed companies in April 2022. Key environmental regulations include packaging recycling laws, home appliance recycling laws, the new Plastic Resource Circulation Act from 2022, and energy efficiency standards. Even if you are not listed, Japanese business partners increasingly expect carbon footprint measurement, supply chain due diligence on human rights, and regular sustainability reporting. Data privacy is another area where Japan has significantly tightened requirements. The Act on the Protection of Personal Information underwent major amendments in 2020, effective from April 2022. Key changes include expanded definitions of personal data, mandatory breach notification to both individuals and the Personal Information Protection Commission, stricter cross-border data transfer requirements, and potential penalties up to 100 million yen for serious violations. Additionally, you need to consider cybersecurity management guidelines, sector-specific requirements for financial and healthcare industries, and cloud service restrictions requiring certain data to be stored on services physically located in Japan. Employment law in Japan provides robust protections that require careful compliance from day one. Companies with 10 or more employees must file detailed work rules with the Labor Standards Inspection Office. You need 36 agreements to legally permit overtime work, and all employees must be enrolled in mandatory social insurance systems. For business immigration, the business manager visa requires minimum 5 million yen capital investment and physical business premises. Engineer and specialist visas need relevant university degrees or more than 10 years of documented experiences. The highly skilled professional visa offers accelerated permanent residency paths for qualified professionals. Now, let me share the biggest compliance mistake I see companies make, the license after launch mindset. I have a real quote here from a CTO of an Indian technology company. He said, "We attempted to expedite a market entry by shipping products while certification was still in process. This resulted in a 6-month ban from the market, 8 million yen in legal costs, and the loss of our primary distribution partner in Japan. The shortcut ultimately delayed our actual launch by 18 months. The correct approach is product assessment, certification plan, complete approvals, then and only then market launch. There is no exceptions here. The second major pitfall is contract gaps. English-only contracts without proper Japanese translations create interpretation disputes. Missing offshore company seals may render agreements unenforceable. Standard force majeure clauses often lack Japan-specific considerations. What is the solution? Bilingual contracts with proper execution formalities, including registered seals and witness attestation when required. The third pitfall involves data and marketing claims. Japanese regulations are particularly stringent about unsubstantiated efficacy claims, comparative advertising, and privacy violations. You need to verify all product claims have Japan recognized supporting evidence, ensure testimonials comply with guidelines, confirm price representations meet transparency requirements, and important proper opt-in mechanism for marketing communications. Here is your proactive compliance strategy. Start with early pre-filing assessment, let's say 12 to 18 months before market entry. Schedule regulatory consultation meetings to build relationships. Conduct pilot imports and testing to verify procedures. And implement ongoing compliance audits after market entry. Let me give you a practical checklist to work with. For corporate and operational readiness, you need your corporate structure established, articles of incorporation registered, company seal registered, foreign direct investment approvals secured, bank accounts established, tax registration completed, and business location properly zoned. For product and service readiness, complete product certifications, satisfy Japanese labeling requirements, translate user manuals, ensure warranty terms and compliance, file intellectual property protections, implement data privacy procedures, and review marketing materials and compliance. Start this process at least 12 months before planned market entry. Assign each item to specific team members with clear deadlines. For further guidance, I recommend the JETRO Business Handbook, METI's Investing in Japan portal, and the Japan-India Business Cooperation Committee for India-specific networking and intelligence. Your recommended next steps: conduct a preliminary compliance assessment, establish relationships with Japanese legal counsel, develop a detailed regulatory roadmap, schedule pre-consultations with authorities, and begin documentation preparation in both languages. Let me share a success story. An Indian IT and IoT provider successfully navigated Japan's regulatory landscape by starting their compliance work 18 months before entry. They conducted comprehensive regulatory mapping, had preliminary meetings with MIC 12 months before entry, initiated product certification 9 months out, recruited local staff, and adapted systems 6 months before, and achieved fully compliant launch with all certifications secured. What were the results? No delays, no penalties, and immediate credibility in the market. To succeed, you need to understand Japan's regulatory mindset. It's consensus-based. Regulations emerge from extensive consultation among government, industry, and consumer groups. It's risk-averse, prioritizing prevention over innovation facilitation. It's precedent-oriented. Novel business models without clear precedents face extended review timelines. And its relationship-centered regulatory interactions are ongoing relationship, not transactional exchanges. Now, let me dive deeper into something that's particularly relevant for many of you, IT and digital service regulations. This sector has seen significant regulatory evolution in recent years. First, cloud service provider requirements. If you are planning to provide cloud services, especially to government clients, you will need ISMAP certification, that's Information System Security Management and Assessment Program. For financial institutions, there are special banking cloud regulations. And if you are handling medical information, you will face specific healthcare data security requirements. Second, the Telecommunication Business Act. This affects any service using telecommunication infrastructure. You will need registration requirements, technical standards compliance for network equipment, and user protection measures, including service continuity plans. Third, and this is relatively new, the Digital Platform Transparency Act, effective from 2021. If you are operating a large digital platform, you must disclose terms and conditions to merchants, provide prior notice of changes, and establish complaint handling procedures. Let's address tax compliance because Japan's tax system involves multiple layers that can catch foreign business off guard. I skip details, but total of corporate tax is range from 30 to 33%, including national and local taxes, depending on your location and the business size. The compliance process involves four key topics: company registration for tax and establishment, True form return election for preferred reporting status, quarterly provisional returns for corporate and consumption tax, and annual final returns due within 2 months for fiscal year end. What's crucial here is getting your tax structure right from the beginning. Mistakes in the initial setup can be expensive and time-consuming to correct later. Finally, let's talk about something nobody wants to think about, but everyone needs to prepare for: crisis management and compliance remediation. When compliance issues arise, and statistically they will at some point, your response can make the difference between a minor setback and a business-ending crisis. First, issue identification. Establish clear internal reporting channels for potential compliance issues. Train your staff to recognize warning signs and report immediately without fear of retaliation. A culture of transparency is your first line of defense. Second, immediate containment. Take swift action to limit exposure. This might mean suspending affected products or services, isolating impacted systems, or pausing certain business activities. Speed matters here. Third, investigation and assessment. Conduct a thorough internal investigation with appropriate legal counsel to maintain privilege. You need to understand the scope of the issue and identify root causes, not just symptoms. Fourth, regulatory engagement. Here is something important about Japan. Proactively engaging with regulatory authorities when required is often viewed more favorably than waiting for them to discover issues. Voluntary disclosure can significantly impact how regulators respond. Finally, corrective implementation. Execute a comprehensive remediation plan that addresses both immediate compliance gaps and underlying systemic issues. Health measures here will come back to haunt you. Let me leave you with this thought. By mastering compliance before you land, you safeguard reputation, cut delays, and pave the way for sustained Rieki. Rieki means profit, benefit in Japan. Compliance in Japan creates 3 competitive advantages. Trust premium. Japanese businesses and consumers view compliance as a proxy for quality and reliability. Market resilience. Robust frameworks create business resilience against regulatory changes. Competitive barrier. Once you have mastered Japan's complex regulatory environment, this expertise becomes a significant strength, competitive advantage of your company. Thank you for joining us today. Please reach out to us at Rieki-ng from Japan at gmail.com or connect with us on LinkedIn. Our next webinar will be 2 weeks after, maybe on July 18th, a deep dive into step 4. Remember, in Japan, compliance isn't just about following rules, it's about building the foundation for long-term success in Japan, in the market. Start early, be thorough, and view compliance as your competitive advantage, not your burden. Thank you again, and we look forward to supporting your successful entry into the Japanese market. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiro-san. Thank you very much for the detailed discussion. And we look forward that in the times to come, people will do consult with us. I would like to request the attendees to kindly drop in any of the questions. I am checking the chat, but I don't see any questions right now. So it seems like everyone is pretty much covered with the details that you gave. And needless to mention here, we are going to share the recording of this webinar to the attendees and on the LinkedIn channel. So please follow us. And if you have any questions, you already have the email ID that Hiro-san has shared. We will be glad to cover any of your questions through that. Thank you very much. Assuming that there are no questions now, we will call it an end. Thank you, Hiro-san. Thank you very much.
Thank you.